From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Captain's Log Supplemental.
Miss Vicki.
Yes, sir.
You know what?
What?
I've been thinking about this Sentinel system.
Yeah. Tell me about the Sentinel system.
So what I was thinking was we have the one car that's got the aim dash that's slowing us down. Because installing the aim dash is actually, it probably is easy, but it's quite hard the first time. And we haven't figured that out yet. The Sentinel system is really easy to set up. So what I was thinking was, why don't we put it in the Lemons car? And we'll worry about the aim data information separately. And we'll kind of break it down into a project. Because then we'd have the motorsports video system that we really, really want, and we'd be able to stream it. We just won't have the data inside, but we have the data outside, so we can combine them later. But I think that's a really good solution.
So what does this Sentinel system do?
Well, if it had the aim data, it would have all the data on the screen, and you could see all their telemetry and everything live. But we'd be able to not only record it for viewing after the race, but we could actually watch our car during the race.
Ooh, like on the monitor and everything?
On a monitor, if you were at home and I was at a track, or if you were at the track and I was at home, depends on who gets the short straw, but we'd be able to watch each other.
It's something I've always wanted to do.
And you know what? If you're driving, you know what you can do on the Sentinel system?
What's that?
You can communicate to me with your hands, and I can't do a thing about it.
Even better.
So, if you need to give a wave or a Jersey wave, whatever you need, we could save it and see it on the screen. And then you can have up to 3 different cameras, and it'll have picture in picture. You'll have the basic main shot out the front window, and then 2 cameras where you put them wherever you want. One could be on the driver, or one could be on the rear view. It's kind of cool.
Then we can upload it onto YouTube.
We could bore millions of people on YouTube.
I love it.
All right. Very well. You know what the only downside I see about this?
What?
Your mom and my mom are going to be panic stricken the entire weekend watching this thing to see if everything's going well.
This is true.
We probably shouldn't tell them.
I like the idea of having a Sentinel.
Mm-hmm. Well, luckily we have maybe 2. Depends on how things go. We're going to try. All right. That sounds like a plan. That's the project. We got to get that ready for the next race.
Sounds great.
All right. Very well. Thank you, ma'am. We tried having this Dominating with Dawson without Ben Dawson, and it didn't live up to the name. So guess who we have back? Hi, Ben.
Uh-oh. Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
Doing good. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm surprised since neither Vicki nor Jen nor Jeremy are here. Most people would be less excited, but okay, I'll take that as a compliment.
I like the closed session, tight jams that we do when it's just you and me every once in a while too.
Yeah. All right. Well, your check's in the mail. So, Mr. Dawson, one of the things we always talk about is seat time. And while I disagree that seat time is not necessarily the best thing for you, because you could be doing stuff wrong.
Right.
One of the things that people talk about is habits that you build on the road, like in your normal everyday road driving. But there's certain habits that you do on the road that can impact negatively your track driving. And I was wondering if we could get into it and try to do at least a partial list, and then what we could do to try and minimize it and make the road driving augment your track driving as opposed to making it worse.
Yeah. I think that's really relevant because even if you're not counting your seat time at the track, and just to kind of touch on what you mentioned, I think Bill, you said you could also have garbage seat time. Maybe if you're out there just doing open loop driving, not focusing on goal or running the same lap over and over again. So there are levels of quality of seat time, and that could translate to your commute too. If you're trying to be conscious of the things that you're learning on track, even as you're addressing turns and braking and steering on the street. I mean, when I'm going around a stoplight, getting off the interstate, I'm still trying to hit the at least the apex of what's presented to me with the lines and everything. I'm trying to put my if I'm turning left, I'm trying to put my left rear wheel right at the corner of the other lane's lines. I mean, I'm trying to still be pretty precise when I'm driving. Not trying to I just try to set the arc I want with it. As soon as I start turning, I try to do things. Trying to mimic I'm not trying to do everything the way we do it on track, but I'm trying to at least kind of pantomime it or go through the motions even when I'm driving, because I think that's also seat time too. I think you can make your commute seat time if you're trying to drive consciously while you're on the road and perpetuate some of the good habits you've learned on the track without endangering anybody else or being a jerk about it or breaking the law.
Yeah, that's one of the best things about I'm driving a Mini on a daily basis right now.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so narrow, I can actually have width within the lane.
Right, yeah.
Like on a 2-lane road, there's width enough to without crossing the double yellow or anything, and I can actually like do apexes, and they're tight, but whatever, it's fun.
But yeah, you're still going through the exercise of placing your car where you want on the entry, working your way to the apex, even if it's really understated like it would be if you only have the width of a lane and you're in a Mini, because you can't swing all the way down like you're going in a turn one at Road Atlanta, but you can certainly make a gesture in that direction and be intentional about being exact with your car placement, that sort of thing. I think that's valuable.
Sure. I think so. And the other thing is you can start to break bad habits. Like I've had students where their hands are kind of all over the place as far as the steering wheel, or sometimes not even on the steering wheel, and fondling the shifter, or I don't know, whatever.
They love to put that hand on the shifter, which is also not great for your transmission either.
No.
But you're right. There are some things that get baked into your driving habits, and if you are new to the discipline of track and race driving, got a lot of stuff to break down. But also, at least for my part, those are some of these things are really basic, and they're the kind of things I only had to have somebody tell me once or twice, and I'm like, I don't want to have somebody that tell me to. So you don't have to tell me to keep breathing again. There's a couple really. I had my first instructor or two. They were listening for really basic stuff like, hey, just checking in, how you doing? You're over there breathing. You know what I mean? Just sort of checking on you. On the other side of that, there's also some really basic stuff you just got to break yourself of doing. Like limo stops. The way you apply the brakes on the street should have almost nothing to do with how you eventually are going to be doing it on the track, right?
Yeah, I think it's because I'm somewhat mathematical that I think of the brake trace as, how the brake application pressure wise goes with time. Yeah. Right. So I kind of picture, and we're going to do an episode once the ladies come back on the different ways to brake on track, but without them here, I didn't want to get into that too deeply. Sure. But, thinking about the brake pressure application and rate, I'm not going to hit the brakes like I do on the track for threshold braking, because the guy next to me in the second lane is going to sit there and go, what is this maniac doing? But that doesn't mean I can't practice a toned down version of it, or concentrating on the way I release the brake, right. So it gives me some time to practice, and I honestly I get a whole lot more time driving around the street than I do on track, in spite of everything I try. But so I try to make the best of it. Yeah,
you may as well use your time in the car in a focused way if you're trying to bring some new skills to the track. Like people often talk about, if you're going to learn to left foot brake, it's good to at least start literally dipping your toe into that on the street first. So that's there are things that you can develop in your street driving that will come over to the track. But when we talk about braking, what I like to do in the street car, some classroom instructor I had a long time ago when I was probably an intermediate DE driver or something, was talking about, if you get good with your track driving, when you're braking on the street, you ought to be able to, like, balance a cup of water on your hood as you're coming to a stop and not have it like dip down or flip off or whatever, so you should come to a pretty smooth stop with your, the bulk of your braking and slowing applied early, and then you just roll into a stop. So yeah, those are things I think about. Now, I always like to think in the back of my mind, like, look how early this guy's putting his brakes on. I'm going to stay off my brakes and run right up to his bumper. And then I'm just going to quickly get on the brakes like you would on the tracks. I mean, I still do pretty minimal braking. I'm sure if anybody's watching my brake lights from behind, it looks pretty crazy, but I'm still going to slow down and stop. I'm just going to do it way later than everybody else is, because I'm not trying to intimidate or freak anybody out. But also, it's just fun to practice. Like we said, a kind of understated, toned down version of what you're doing on track, just to kind of keep yourself in the rhythm of doing it and keep yourself in tune with what, why are we doing it this way, that sort of thing. So I don't like to slip into just full driving mode. Yeah, like if I'm driving around with my kids or something like that, and there's other crap going on, then I lose focus. I don't try to drive where I'm paying quite as much attention. But especially if I'm by myself on my commute or something like that, I like to pay attention to where the apex is, and pay attention to how I'm braking and how I'm turning. And I still try to, if I'm not doing something else with my hands, I'll still keep my hands, in the same position on the wheel as I would on track if I'm going through a turn. It's just good practice for muscle memory for when you do get back to the track and have some focused real-time seat time.
Indeed. And the other thing, we always called it the bobblehead stop. You just pretend your neck's a bobblehead. Yeah. And you want to make sure that you stop so smoothly that your head doesn't start to bobble around, especially forward and backwards.
Right.
And
that's another thing where you look at your passengers, right? Like if you see your passengers are moving, they're like, maybe I'm hitting a little too hard. Do you try to heel toe in your Mini? Are the pedals in such a configuration where you can do that even at street?
The pedals are side to side, but they're a little off front to back because you don't really hit it quite as hard.
Yeah, you're not applying the same kind of deep brake pressure to kind of push it a little further down.
It's something that we're going to be working on. I know Vicki wants to work on it too. We're going to be working on it with the sim racer once we get set up this winter and try and adapt it. But that's a good time to, if you can heel toe on a street, I think you've got a much better chance. It's even easier to do it on the track.
Right. And this is something else that, if the geometry of the pedals, but if you want to work on your heel toe when you're driving around the street, you just have to be cognizant of the fact that it might be more of a, you're not going to get the full pressure. Like, you're also not going to be revving the motor as high as you would. So it's not like you got to get a deep spike of throttle to match up, with your 4,000 RPMs you're going to be as you shift down or whatever. You know what I mean? You're talking about, 2,500 down to, 2,000 or something like that. If you're, not going crazy with your car there. So, I mean, it's like everything else. It's just kind of a mini version of what you're actually doing on track. But I think it's good practice. As long as your pedals, kind of sort of make sense to where your feet can get up and down and around to do heel toe. I think it's worth doing on the street because it's just good practice for being in the habit of always doing it on the track if you're driving a manual vehicle.
Exactly. And then the other thing is we've had some people on our team who were learning to drive a stick, and they had never driven a car with 3 pedals and never applied a clutch. The same bobblehead drill applies to you and your passengers. You shouldn't have your head be bopped around by changing gears up or down. And if you are, then you need to work on it. And the street's a great way to do that. You can definitely do that one. That's easy.
Well, right. And that kind of plays into, the way you're shifting, how you're timing your shifts. You might see some bobblehead action if you're revving your car up to, $6,000 and slamming it in neutral for a second, awkwardly putting it in the next gear or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Good stuff to think about.
The other one that I tend to play with is all types of vision, because, especially on a highway, you can see literally miles.
Right.
And, sometimes, especially because we're trying to teach Mia to drive, and, she's going to get her permit soon, and she'll be attending an HPDE coming to you next year.
All right. That's awesome.
Exactly. Trying to make sure that you're not looking at the car in front of you or right in front of your car, or, not scanning the road or trying to predict what other cars are doing. It's kind of making it into a game.
And that plays into your racecraft too. I mean, there's a safety element of looking ahead and always being cognizant of what's happening way up the road and what's right in front of you. But also just from a traffic management standpoint, I like to play the game where I see traffic slowing down ahead of me. I want to be the last guy to get to my brakes, and I want to see a wave of brake lights. I see a wave of brake lights start a half a mile ahead of me. I go ahead and get off the throttle, and by the time it reaches me, I haven't touched the brakes at all. But everybody else ahead of me has had to do some braking it up. You know what I mean? And then I timed it right from seeing it happen way ahead of me. I timed it right. I timed getting off the throttle so that I didn't ever have to brake. I like doing that, but that's also going to help you get you in the mindset of looking way down the road all the time and looking way ahead in race traffic. Because if you're looking way ahead in race traffic, you're also making a game plan, whether you're cognizant of that factor or not. But if you're making a connection with what's happening 4 or 5 sets of cars ahead of you, you're already planning where you want to be when you get through up to them. You know what I mean? If you're looking in your rearview mirror, seeing fast cars coming, hopefully you're already making a plan for where you hope they're going to get around you.
Yeah. So you don't catch them in a bad spot, right?
Right. So you know me, there's always the safety aspect of it, but I'm always gamifying how is this going to make me better, in a race. That's something to think about with vision. So I think it's also crucial to point out to anybody who's driving on the street, if you're on the gas and you see somebody's brake lights ahead of you, right in front of you, 5 cars up, get off the gas. As soon as I see a brake light, I'm at least going to take my foot off the gas and see what's going on. It's usually a good start for whatever else is about to come.
Yeah, you're at least ready. I mean, it's the exact opposite of what you do in a racetrack, but
Right. Yeah, but it's one of the things that a company is looking way ahead, keeping your eyes up on the street is just having your eyes sort of connected to your throttle and brake pedals. But I think of course it's also crucial to your safety to be doing that. There's no better time to train your eyes to get in the habit of looking ahead than on the highway or around the street, where it's not crucial to your safety, but it's not as crucial as when you're trying to go 130 miles an hour down the fastest straightaway at your local track. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
That's a good time to have it develop. That's not a good time to try to develop your looking way ahead skills. Would you agree?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's kind of the difference between jogging and sprinting, right?
Right.
Yeah. I got one. What the most famous early on Dominic with Dawson quote from Miss Vicki was how the car would go around the track. Driving on rails.
Oh yeah, we had this thing so dialed in.
That's right.
I barely had to touch the gas or even shift gears. It was just
when the car just floated right through, and
it felt so fast, right?
That's right. It probably did, because that you're taught that on the main highways and roads. And we're not saying go out there and get the 15-degree slip angle on a back road. I mean, I'm not saying that, but it's something you have to be aware of to know that that's not what you're trying to do when you're on the track. Eventually,
right?
So,
right. Eventually, I'm sure there are different schools of thought on this, but eventually, you kind of want that car sliding a little bit all the time, unless you're just going straight for a while.
Yeah, and that's probably the hardest thing, I think, to break when going from a street car to a track car.
Oh, there are plenty of racers who do fairly successful racers who really never get all the way into that.
Well, they're better than me then. I don't know. You know what else? A lot of people don't think about it, but I kind of try to, especially since we do endurance racing. I try and stay as focused on the driving as I can be for as long as I can be without letting my mind wander. Kind of like a mental stamina training. And if I can do 3 hours or 4 hours without realizing that I just drove that without even thinking about it,
you don't mean did I just drive 3 hours? Where was I?
How did I get here?
It seems like I've been driving for 10 minutes, but it's been 3 hours. You're not talking about that, are you?
No. Well, I'm trying to talk about the exact opposite of that.
I hear you. I sometimes I'm just racing to get get something to listen to before I even start thinking about the music, about the driving. But yeah, once I got something good to occupy the listening part of my brain, then I like to just get into the driving and just sort of either focus on it or zone out doing it. But that's all I'm doing is the driving, pretty much.
Exactly, and I think the often overlooked, especially in endurance racing, is the amount of mental drain, in addition to physical, which nobody believes until they do it, but the amount of mental drain that you get from racing for just say 2 hours, and some people go a lot longer, like 3 or
Yeah.
4. But that's a lot of time to concentrate, and short-term attention span is not helping anybody.
And if you're passing a lot of cars or getting past a lot, that's so many decisions you've had to make that are pretty crucial. Gotta do it now kind of decisions. And
Yep.
you're got a lot of people's safety kind of wrapped up in what you're doing out there. So the more you can build up the muscle memory and repeatability of it, the less of a toll it takes on you. You still have to be just as focused and just as present, but you've made these decisions enough times where it becomes less and less of a stressor, at least in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's just, if you're going to be serious about your racing and you're going to take advantage of the opportunities you have, you might as well treat the thing that you get to do the most as an opportunity to help you get better at your racing. And that's kind of what we're trying to promote here is think about things that would help you racing and see if you can simulate them or partially simulate them on the daily driving, and indirectly help your racing.
Absolutely.
I thought I lost you there. I was like, I hope he's agreeing.
That's not what it was. I was just listening to your entire premise. Yeah, totally. It's I think it's important to be present any moment that you're wheeling a something many 1,000-pound bullet around town. You need to be there, focused whether you're a race car driver or not. But this is certainly not time to waste. I don't want to give up any competitive edge, and driving around town is a good time to keep your claws sharp.
Well, we know you don't want to give up any competitive edge, so that was without thinking. So we don't have to worry about that one at all.
Yeah, that's right.
So, Mr. Dawson, you know what we've gotten to?
What have we?
We've gotten to the point in this podcast where we say, I'm sure we've forgotten something or didn't think of something.
I'm certain there are many aspects of driving that we didn't cover just now. We'd love to hear from our listeners. If our listeners have input or other things they'd like to hear us talk about, give us a shout. We love hearing from everybody.
That's right. Social medias, garageheroesandtraining@gmail.com, whatever's convenient for you. That includes you, Tyler. You haven't written us
absolutely
in a while.
Tyler.
He's very busy. So
send my mom a note, whatever.
Exactly. Say hi to, Mama Ben Dawson.
That's right.
So
that's what her name is.
That's right. She doesn't admit to it, but that's what her name is. All right, sir. I think we've beaten this one into the ground.
I think we have. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you, sir.
All right. Like sitting at dinner tonight and said something about me being an adult, and Vivian's like, well, sort of an adult. I was like, well, my body has reached adulthood.
Yes. There's the chronological age and then there's the mental age, and they diverge greatly. I like when people tell me with the cars I have that I'm going through a midlife crisis. I'm like, well, apparently I had a midlife crisis when I was 17.
Right.
I've been driving the same car since then. Yeah, Slurpee. I'm happy.
I say you're eating a Slurpee with a spoon?
Yeah, it's frozen solid.
Oh, okay. So you modified it.
No, we buy them in bulk. Like
right.
When we go,
and then you freeze them,
and then we throw them in the freezer, and
Right. That's what I mean. You modify them.
Yes.
You all right. I think I'm back in the dock. All right. Let's see. Questions for Ben.
77.